area of a trapezoid. So a trapezoid we identify as a shape that only has one pair of parallel lines. The top is parallel to the bottom. The sides, even though they may look parallel at first, if you continue them, they will eventually cross or touch. So a trapezoid is one that only has one pair parallel. Well, because it has one pair parallel, and you notice its shape, one side is different from the other. So when we're trying to find an area of a trapezoid, again, area means we're trying to find how much space is on the inside. We come back to our star reference guide. Again, we have that whole section of area that goes through all these different shapes. Well, this shape I've identified as a trapezoid. So I look over, and trapezoid has two different formulas. Just like triangle, those two different formulas are actually the same thing, they just look a little different. This one is dividing by 2, this one is multiplying by a half. Well, we know when we multiply by a half, it's just dividing by 2 basically. So we're going to use, let's use this one first, and we'll show both ways. So here's our trapezoid. We already have the measurements written down for us. The formula is area equals base 1 plus base 2 times height over 2, or divided by 2. Well, notice we have a base 1 and a base 2. That's different than what we've seen so far. The reason for that is, if you notice, our base and our height, still the rule is true. My base has to run perpendicular to my height. There needs to be a 90-degree angle. So I see my 90-degree angle. I see that this must be my height, but I have a bottom number and I also have a top number. Well, those are two different bases. We have to use those two different bases and put them in our formula to help us find the inside. On a triangle, we only had the one base. On a rectangle, we had two bases, but they're both the same, because the bottom line and top line would be the same measurement. Trapezoid's a little different, that's why our formula looks a little different. But we're going to use it the same way. We're going to look to the left and go to the right and fill in what we can. This formula is here to guide us through the process. I see my A for area. I do not know it yet. Base 1, I'll make this my base 1. That's going to be 6 plus base 2. Well, this is base 2. It's right across from my other base. That is 3. End parentheses. My height has that right angle to both bases and runs from top to bottom. My height is 2. Don't forget, divided by 2. Now I just need to go through and calculate what I can. Again, I don't know area. 6 plus 3 is in parentheses. I'm doing that first. Is 9. I have not used my 2 yet. I have not divided by 2 yet. I do not know my area still. Now I'm going to multiply side by side. 9 times 2 is 18. I still have not divided by 2 yet, so I'm bringing it down. A equals, well, 18 divided by 2 is 9. Now that I'm left with A equals a number, I know that this is the area of my trapezoid. My unit of measure was in feet, and to show area, it is squared. Okay, here's another trapezoid. It has all of its measurements. Pause the video, try this one on your own. Come back and check with me. Okay, so you should have tried this one on your own. You could have used either formula. I'll use the other one this time, which is A equals half base 1 plus base 2 multiplied by the height. Again, look at my picture. I notice I have height running up and down. I have that right angle, which makes this a base. I have that right angle, which makes this a base. I can label this one base 1 or base 2, it doesn't really matter, and this one would be the other base. The line running from top to bottom is my height. Just like we talked about with triangles, I wouldn't pull a measurement off the slanted sides because that's not my height. My height is a straight line. It has to be perpendicular to my base. Okay, starting on left to right, let's fill in what we know. I do not know my area. I have not used the half. Do I have base 1? Yes, I'm using 4 plus base 2, 7, end parentheses. Do I have my height? Yes, it is 8. Again, left to right, I have not used A. I don't know what it is yet. I have not used my half yet. Parentheses are first, so 4 plus 7 is 11 times 8. Bring it down again. A equals, I have not used my half yet. Side by side we multiply. 11 times 8 is 88. I'm still not done. I have a calculation here. A equals half of 88 is 44. Because I'm now left with A equals in a number, I know this is my area. Bring in my unit of measure, centimeters, show its area, squared. Okay, so here's a little bit of a different one. Now we could calculate this one 2 different ways. If I really wanted to, I could calculate the area of a triangle and the area of a rectangle, or I could just use it as a trapezoid. Well, I'm going to go ahead and show it as a trapezoid. We're going to use A equals base 1 plus base 2 times height divided by 2. Now the hard part to this one is identifying each piece. Base 1, base 2. Well, usually we look down at the bottom for base and up at the top for bases, but I'm not seeing that. Okay, so think about what your bases and your height needs to do. We have to have a base running perpendicular to our height that needs to be a right angle. Well, here are our right angles. We see that because of our little squares. So I have the right angle, but this height wouldn't be different than this height. I need 2 bases, not 2 heights. Well, I can always turn my picture, and now that looks like something a little more familiar. I have a height running from bottom to the top. I have those right angles like I need. I have a base on the bottom that's different from the base on the top. So I'm going to go ahead and label this base 1, base 2, and this would be my height. Okay, let's plug it into our formula. Left to right, plug in what I have. I do not know my area, so I'm going to write that back down. Base 1, I said I'm going to use the 14. Base 2, the 10, times height of 8 divided by 2. Area equals 14 plus 10, because they're in parentheses, is 24 times 8 divided by 2. Area equals, well, 24 times 8 is 192, and I still haven't used divide by 2. 192 divided by 2 is 96. I'm left with area equals 96, so I know I found my area. Add my unit of measure feet and add squared. Last one is trapezoid that has multiple measurements going around and through the inside. So we need to figure out which ones we want to use and which ones we want to leave alone. I'm going to use the other formula this time. Area equals half base 1 plus base 2 times my height. So if you look at your trapezoid and you're identifying your bases, remember what our rules are. We have to have a base 1, a base 2, and a height. The bases have to run perpendicular to the height. They need to make a right angle. So here's one right angle. So I know that this is my height. It runs in line with my bottom number, so I can make that a base. I'll make that base 1. And my height, if you look at the top, has also made a right angle, so I can make the 4 my base 2, and I want to use my 8 for my height. We don't want to use the slanted sides because those are not height. So for right now, we're going to ignore them as if they're not there. Again, left to right, fill in what we have. Area equals, I have not used my half. Base 1 is 2, plus base 2 is 4, times height of 8. Area equals half, parentheses first, 2 plus 4 is 6, times 8. Area equals, I have not used my half yet, 6 times 8 is 48. Half of 48 is 24. Unit of measure, show that it's area. So when would we use the slanted sides? Well, we would use the slanted sides if we were looking for perimeter. Okay, I know the video is called area, but let's look at perimeter. The perimeter in any shape simply means add all sides. So we just trace around the outside and put down the numbers that we see. Around the outside, that's 8.1. Around the outside, that's 2. Around the outside, 8.1. Notice I did not pull the height of 8 in perimeter because the 8 is not around the outside. It is going from the bottom to the top and goes inside the figure. So for perimeter, I would simply add up 8.1, 8.1, 4, and 2. 8 and 8, 16, 4 is 20, 2 is 22. Perimeter would be 22.2. So the reason I show you that is just to show you when you would use the numbers that are on the side that is slanted. You do not want to use them for area, you want to use height. But if you switch to perimeter or have to find both of those, you only want to use the outside for the perimeter.